Watching this video, I want you to keep in mind a few questions. Why are Nazis showing up at Republican rallies? How many times must Republicans have Nazis showing up in their events before the media acknowledges the link? Will Hassan remember this the next time, or we will continue to ask the same question? Will he pretend that Republicans aren't supported by Nazis the next time he reports on them? Does Republicans spreading and going along with the Nazis' Elder Scrolls of Zion, known today as QAnon, should this be said out loud? What does Hassan bring a Republican on to discuss the Nazis in the Republican Party? Why doesn't he say that Republicans run on Nazi propaganda, but use the coy turn of phrase as they show up at their events? Is he going to ask any Republican that he brings on in the future to defend the Nazis showing up to support them?
Over the weekend, there was a major gathering of conservatives in Tampa, Florida. It was the annual Student Action Summit of the pro-Trump youth group Turning Point USA, and its featured speakers included Donald Trump, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Matt Gaetz, and Ron DeSantis, among others. But you know who else showed up at this gathering? Outside of it? People with Nazi signs. A warning, this imagery is disturbing. Demonstrators armed with swastikas, SS flags, and even one banner that read DeSantis Country showed up in downtown Tampa shouting slurs at counter-protesters. A spokesman for TPUSA quickly denounced the group, saying in part that TPUSA 100% condemns those ideologies in the strongest of terms, and adding that the neo-Nazis have nothing to do with the organization. Governor DeSantis' office and his campaign declined to comment, pointing to a past rally by neo-Nazis in January, where he eventually referred to demonstrators as jackasses. But here's my question. If TPUSA doesn't like Nazis, why are people with Nazi signs showing up to the convention to express their support? Why could that?
I'm Ted Cruz, and my is Kiss My Ass.
They've turned our classrooms from places of education to ones of indoctrination.
Do not let these miserable losers, these godless, soulless people, rob you of the joy that is your birthright and your destiny.
They believe in left-wing gender ideology and toxic critical race theory. We believe in two genders. There are men and there are women.
Our America is not for the thugs and the criminals who would burn our cities and murder our fellow Americans in the name of some bullshit social justice.
Yeah, I also call myself a Christian nationalist, and that's not a bad word. That's actually a good thing, right?
Get ready for battle. Put on the full armor of God. Take a stand against the left's schemes. Stand firm with the belt of truth buckled around your waist.
Vilifying the left as globalist, gender-hating, nation-destroying communists? Check. Preparing for an ultimate battle wearing the full armor of God and the belt of truth? Check. And let me remind you that this was a meeting of student activists. TPUSA is a youth group. Not just any youth group, but a youth group that had to apologize for tweeting an anti-Semitic joke in 2017. A youth group whose South Florida chapter was caught the following year trading racist memes and rape jokes on an internal chat. TPUSA denounced those chats and promised an internal investigation. But last fall, their America Fest in Arizona attracted a convention of white nationalists just across the street. TPUSA did not comment on that when asked by the Arizona Republic newspaper at the time. This is a group whose founder, Charlie Kirk, had said on Twitter in the lead up to January the 6th that he was helping send, quote, 80-plus buses full of patriots to Washington, and who deleted the tweet after the violence unfolded that day. A spokesman for TPUSA says it was really 7 buses, and it wasn't their group that organized them, but Kirk's other group, Students for Trump. This is a movement that not one, but 2 major Republican Party presidential contenders, Donald Trump and Ron DeSantis, have happily, enthusiastically engaged with. And let's be clear, they're not actual Nazis. They have occasionally even disavowed Nazism. But that still leaves the question that they should probably reckon with. Why in America in 2022 do people with Nazi signs gather at their events? Joining me now, Carlos Cabello, former Florida Republican congressman. He's now an NBC News and MSNBC political analyst. Carlos, you're a Republican. You're in Florida. You saw this TPUSA conference over the weekend with some of your former colleagues in the Republican Party in Congress attending and speaking. What struck you most about it?
Well, Maddie, what you're referring to is this culture that Donald Trump has implemented, which is, as long as you support Donald Trump and you believe in him, you're welcome anywhere. It doesn't matter what else you believe in. It doesn't matter if you're a fascist, a communist. As long as you believe in Donald Trump, that's all he cares about, which is why he has always welcomed all these fringe elements. It's why he has repeatedly refused to condemn groups like this openly and in a clear way, because for Donald Trump, the only thing that matters is that you support him. And obviously that has infected parts of the Republican Party as well. And there are plenty of Republican politicians out there that are very welcoming of anyone who's willing to show up at a rally and chant their name or go to a voting booth and mark their box.
Donald Trump didn't put the Nazis in the Republican Party. Does anyone actually believe, other than the Republicans, that Donald Trump showed up in a rational political party and in 4 years turned them into supporting Nazism, QAnon, Elder Scrolls of Zion, and trying to overthrow America? Is that really what Hassan and this Republican trying to convince you of?
So while Turning Point USA condemned the Nazi presence, GOP governor, presidential hopeful Ron DeSantis from your state declined to comment on it. And it's not the first time. Back in January, when he was asked by the ADL to denounce a neo-Nazi rally in Orlando, he instead railed against the media. His spokeswoman even tweeted, quote, "Do we even know they're Nazis?" a tweet she quickly deleted. His opponent in the last governor's race said DeSantis may not be a racist, but the racists sure think he's racist. Is that by design?
Well, Maddie, what Ron DeSantis should do, especially if he's considering running against Donald Trump, which everyone expects by now, is draw a contrast and show that he's willing to single out these groups and call them for what they are and make sure they know that they have no place in American politics if they're going to express themselves with hate or, if they're going to affiliate with, whatever the label is, Nazi, racist labels, whatever it is, there are currents that should be excluded from our politics. And of course, they can participate in any way they choose, but no leader should be welcoming that participation. On the contrary, they should be condemning it. And if Governor DeSantis is aware that this group was there, he should say that he doesn't want to have anything to do with them and that he disagrees with them.
And just to remind our audiences, it was another TPUSA summit last year where an attendee asked this chilling question. Have a listen.
How can you show up in a party that is full of rational people who believe reality and walk down an escalator and tell that party Mexico is sending their rapists and their thieves, and they don't kick them out? The Republican Party has been racist for decades. And this Republican needs to convince himself he's not a horrible person supporting a horrible party for his entire life. Trump kept a book of speeches of Hitler by his bed and admitted it in court documents. And the Republicans still decide to support him. Trump wasn't the catalyst. Trump slid into a racist party, believing a whole bunch of delusional conspiracies, and just set up home, because it was where he, the racist, felt comfortable. The Nazis were coming to the Republican Party for decades.
At this point, we're living under corporate and medical fascism. This is tyranny. When do we get to use the guns? No, and I'm not. That's not a joke. I'm not saying it like that. I mean, literally, where's the line? How many elections are they going to steal before we kill these people?
Last year, Republicans were demanding violence against other Americans. All year long, there were videos of Republicans asking their elected representatives when they get to use violence. This is a one clip out of thousands. So how is MSNBC, so-called mainstream media, ignoring all the Republicans' calls to violence? It's because if they actually reported on what was going on, they would be reporting on the downfall of the United States. Instead, they are bringing Republicans on to justify what they have been doing.
I mean, I'm not going to say anything. I'm just going to ask you to react to that clip. That's the kind of rhetoric now that we're having at conservative youth groups.
So when people wonder why, for example, Congressman Lee Zeldin was attacked at a public event in New York just a couple days ago, this is why, because people say things like this, and leaders, or so-called leaders, people who should be leaders, don't condemn it.
How Republicans don't condemn it? This delusional Republican that wants to pretend that he wasn't part of a racist party is still protecting the Nazis that want to overthrow America with violence. He is pushing this idiotic notion that somehow there were sane Republicans that are still in the party. There isn't. Republicans are off their rockers, willing to murder anyone so they don't have to admit that they are wrong. This Republican wants to prove that he didn't waste his entire life in the Republican Party. And Hassan is giving him a platform just to do that, just to make him feel good.
I think back at how Senator McCain, when he was running for president, one of his supporters came out and tried to disqualify President Obama in some unfair way. I don't remember the exact details, but he said, no, hold on, that's wrong. I don't agree with that. We don't express ourselves that way. That's leadership.
This is part of the delusion that there were equal people on the Democrats' side. This is Republicans trying to overthrow America and Democrats calling it out. When Democrats say that Republicans are a threat to America, it is because they have people willing to take up arms against democracy. This isn't a both sides issue. Republicans attack the country. Republicans tried to overthrow America.
And unfortunately, too many people on both sides, but certainly in this case on the Republican side, are refusing to condemn those who express themselves with hatred, those who promote a more violent society where you can.
Like a Republican defending Trump and the violent Republicans washing his hands of the nutcases in the Republican Party.
Get police officers killed outside the Capitol of the United States, and where politicians normally get assaulted. This is all a result of Donald Trump and other people like him in our politics who have excused this behavior for far too long.
Republicans have been pushing this insanity for generations. They have inbred stupidity. Nixon told Republicans that they were under attack by the media. This radicalization happened decades ago. It isn't Trump.
I would point out, just to be fair, that John McCain also appointed Sarah Palin as his running mate, and she was the original Trump, you could argue. One last question, Carlos Cabello. There's been this narrative that the voters backing people like Trump, Gates, Boebert, they're all older Americans. But you look at this conference, these are young people. Donald Trump has energized a section of young conservatives who are pushing some authoritarian and often racist stuff.
Yeah, these people have been radicalized. Donald Trump and others, for their own convenience, have made people believe that this country's being lost, that people are under attack, that everything is going to hell. And look, I tell people on both sides, Mehdi, we don't need a revolution in this country, despite the fact that it's deeply flawed and that we've made many mistakes along the way. I still think this is the greatest country in the world. So we don't need a revolution. We don't need to fundamentally change it. We just need to make it better every day.
I'm sorry. Who's stoking violence? Republicans. There is a reason why Republicans tried to overthrow America, and it isn't because they believed reality. The anger that breeds violence isn't on both sides. There is a reason Hassan brings Republicans on, because he has to convince himself that he is being fair.
Politicians won't say that because they need to make people angry, so they contribute online, so they show up at these events, and of course, so that they go out and vote. But, you know, we're due for a political renaissance in this country, Mehdi, because I don't think this is tenable for much longer.
So the questions. Why are Nazis showing up at the Republican rallies? Because that is their party. That is who the Republicans are. They support the Nazis. They are who the Nazis want in charge, because the Nazis believe Republicans will allow them to murder all blacks and gays and lesbians and anyone that they deem not worthy of America. This is also the Republican rhetoric that says they are the only true Americans. It's also one of the reasons why Republicans are so willing to commit violence. How many times must Republicans have Nazis show up at their events before the media acknowledge the link? This is a first step, but honestly, it's going to be months before he is willing again to point out that Nazis are showing up. So, will Hassan remember this next time that he's interviewing a Republican and ask them why the Nazis support them? No. Because right then, he will be attacked for being a liberal media, and then no Republican will come on his show. And he needs Republicans to come on his show to validate that he is a centrist. Now, does Republicans spreading and going along with the Elder Scrolls of Zion, now known as QAnon, be said out loud? Well, there are dozens of people running for Congress that support QAnon, so most likely no. Nor are any mainstream Republicans going to be asked if these QAnon nutcases that are spouting Nazi propaganda, are they welcome in the Republican Party? Is this just the base forcing these horrible people on you? How exactly are you going to win with Republicans running under the Nazi flag? Why doesn't he say that Republicans are running on Nazi propaganda, but uses a coy turn of phrase? The Nazis are showing up at their events? It's because he cannot attack Republican without Republicans boycotting his show. And if they do that, he's taken off the air. And he's not going to ask any Republican why the Nazis support them, because he's not brave enough, and nor is the media. The media is lazy, and they're stupid, and they want to so badly convince themselves that somehow they can bring Republicans back to reality. Or then there is the host of the media who just honestly believe that there are good Republicans and somehow, someday, everything will go back to normal and Republicans will stop trying to overthrow America.